I've been really lucky that in my career, I've lived in lots of different countries around the world, and I've led teams in lots of different parts of the world. And I think that's helped me because it's given me that external view on the UK. And that helped me to put myself, I think, in the shoes and to empathise better with our international investors and to think about how do we really need to support them to understand the opportunities, to navigate a system that's unfamiliar and not to assume too much knowledge.
London and Partners has been promoting the city as a global hub. And based on your experience, how do you think that the company's strategies when it comes to China have developed and evolved over the past years?
China has always been a core market for London and Partners, and it continues to be one of our core markets. So if we go back, a lot of the investment from China to the UK was in quite traditional real estate and financial services. And whilst that's still very important, we as a company are much more focused on finding that new innovation and encouraging innovative new companies to come and expand into London.
So do you see the shift from the traditional real estate industry? We see the walkie-talkie building in London. It was invested by a Chinese company to fintech, automotive and other sectors. So if I were a Chinese investor, I would be wondering what businesses have the most potential for further collaboration between the two countries?
Yeah, great question. So London's a great place to scale a business. When we look at the kinds of Chinese businesses that tend to come and be successful here in recent years, lots of fintech and payments companies, some around innovation in smart cities and around electric vehicles, and also around gaming technologies, and some life sciences businesses have also done well. So it's quite broad. As you would expect in an economy as big as China, which has such broad sectoral strengths.
What do you think makes London stand out compared with other cities, let's say New York or Singapore?
So I think for Chinese companies, London is really that rest of world gateway. And what we often see is that a Chinese business will come to London as its first international office, because by being in London, it puts you on that global stage. London is a very, very diverse and international business city. And if you're selling a B2B, so you're selling to businesses, it's a very dense centre of global decision makers. So you can come to London and win a contract, not just for the UK, but for all of Europe or all of the Europe and the Middle East.
Do you think it is still the case after Brexit?
Absolutely. London has one of the most diverse and large skilled workforces in the world. We see that our international student numbers are really strong. We attract the best talent from around the world. We have some of the world's top universities in London. And investors tell us that talent is still the number one reason they come to London. We've helped lots of different Chinese companies to invest in London over the years. And that ranges from really big household names. We helped Baidu, Tencent, Alibaba to set up their offices here. In fact, your own company, CGTN, we helped you to set up your office in London as well. So some of the really big Chinese businesses.
So one of the key challenges in dealing with China is to navigate the complex international investment environment. So what can London and Partners do to attract more investment from China?
We've always taken a very long-term view on China because we know that long-term relationships are very important in a changing geopolitical environment. We're really focused on client service. So our role is to be that shortcut to help people spend their time as efficiently as possible in the right meetings with the right places and at the right events, and always trying to maintain those really, really high levels of client service is at the core of what we do.
Mm-hmm. And you get your feedback from some Chinese business professionals investing in London. And what is the most that you have got from them? What are the challenges or obstacles that they have met in the city when they invest in the country?
So the typical obstacles that Chinese businesses face when they come over, other than sometimes there are geopolitical challenges, but assuming that's not an issue, are actually the same as we see for most high growth companies, regardless of where they come from. I don't think they're particularly specific to Chinese businesses. One of the biggest ones that people don't think about so much is the company culture. One of the key challenges is translating a culture internationally, especially if it's if you haven't got an international outpost yet, because as we know, culture is such an important driver of a company's growth. And if you have an innovative business, having that culture of innovation is really core. It's often the secret sauce to that business. A lot of what we do is making sure that they're working with the right expert partners and then supporting them directly to be networking within their sector, meeting the right investors, the right corporates, the right influencers.
Your company, London & Partners, also works for other countries, and compared with other countries, how do you think that China is different, or Chinese businesses are different?
I think one of the big differences with Chinese investors is because China is such a big domestic market, the businesses tend to come internationally when they're at quite a late stage of development. So the kind of business that would come to London from China is already well established, maybe has thousands of employees, potentially is already listed on a Chinese stock exchange. That's quite different from the kind of investor that might come from Paris or from Berlin, where they will come to London to raise a Series A. So they'll come to London really quite an early stage in their development. So we're dealing with a much smaller, much less mature business, whereas our Chinese clients tend to be quite large and well established.
And do you think it's changing now gradually? There used to be big companies from China expanding overseas, let's say to London. Probably there are some startup companies from China now trying to get access to the European market.
Absolutely. We're working with Chinese startups, and I think that's really exciting. And I hope that more Chinese, scale-ups, maybe not startups. I hope that more Chinese scale-ups will choose also to expand to the UK. And we really look forward to working with them when they do.
Looking back at the history of London & Partners, how do you personally envision the future of this relationship evolving, let's say, over the next decade?
Well, if I knew how the future of the UK-China relationship would evolve over the next decade, I probably wouldn't do this job. But I think China will remain a very important market for London, for trade and for investment, and investment across different asset classes. We've talked today about real estate, but also about financial services and different kinds of technology. And I think that whilst the geopolitics might change, that basic trading relationship will likely endure in some way or other. And I think China continues to be a really important market for London for tourists and also for students. And so we're looking forward to continuing to work with our partners in China on that.